Welcome to the Careers by Jenn podcast, episode 255. Today on the podcast, Jenn speaks with Ethan Beute about being there in person when you can't be there in person. Be sure to check out future episodes in the COVID-19 series, which will include traveling around the world when you can't travel around the world, staging your dream wedding when you can't stage your dream wedding, and killing it in your job when you don't have a job.
You're listening to the Careers by Jenn podcast. I'm your host, Jenn Swanson. This is the podcast that helps you to get the job, love your work, and advance your career. Careers by Jenn is a listener-sponsored podcast, and if you like the content, please consider supporting the show as a patron. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. Head over to CareersbyJenn.com and click on Support to learn more. Hey friends, how are you doing today? Are you having an up day or a down day today? I know that I go between both, and it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster, an energetic and a motivational roller coaster ride too. So if you're having one of those days, you aren't alone. Today's title is Being There in Person When You Can't Be There in Person. And this has been my whole focus in my other work in my ministry job, actually. So this topic was really of interest to me. How can we continue to do the work that we are being paid to do that is so much easier to do in person than and feels like more effective in person? How can we do that when we can't actually physically be in person? How can we take this whole and sudden virtual gathering and meeting experience and make it more human? And also, how even when we can be in person, how can we make our work more personal and more personable? Well, my guest, Ethan Beute, has a few ideas. Chief evangelist at Bom Bom, co-author of Rehumanize Your Business, and host of the Customer Experience podcast, Ethan Beute has collected and shared video success stories in a variety of formats for a decade. He has even sent 10,000 videos himself, and he'll tell you about these. Prior to joining Bom Bom, he spent a dozen years leading marketing teams inside local television stations in Chicago, Grand Rapids, and Colorado Springs in the United States. He holds undergraduate and graduate degrees from the University of Michigan and UCCS in communication, psychology, and marketing. And our conversation was lively and energetic. And so I hope you enjoy it. Ethan Beute, I welcome you here today, and I'm going to ask you right off the bat, what have you missed most during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Gosh, I guess I'll say two things. My team members, like I work with so many awesome people, and we do connect by Zoom, but it's just not quite the same. So I miss that opportunity, especially we had a team meeting, a whole marketing team meeting this morning. And, again, we did it for whatever we're at now, 7th week in a row on Zoom. And it's just not the same as getting around the conference room table and just seeing each other and kind of the preamble, the warm up, the casual stuff before and after the meeting. It's just not the same. The other thing I miss is dining in. I know we can take out from some of our favorite restaurants, but that restaurant that's 45 minutes from your house that you would go to for a Saturday evening dinner, I'm not driving dinner back 45 minutes to my house to eat it cold. It's just not going to happen. And so I miss the dine-in opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. And I've been saying to people, I was on an errand this morning and we drove into the city, which is about 45 minutes from here. It actually took us a lot less because there were fewer cars, but we went to see a colleague. And we were standing apart, and talking to one another. And I said, wow, I miss seeing people in 3D.
Right. Totally.
Because it's all the flat screen thing. And yeah, it's so weird not to be able to run over and hug somebody, it's an interesting thing. So today we're talking, our title today is Being There in Person When You Can't Be There in Person. And I know that things where I live are beginning to phase in again very slowly. We have this long, slow phase in, and we're starting to be able to do things as of mid-May. I don't know what it's like where you are, but let's talk about this topic, being there, being there. What does that mean, being there?
It means in that language, it means creating that in-person moment when you cannot be there in person. And so it's really interesting in the context of the environment that we're in. And here in Colorado, we're similar to what's going on with you is, for example, I just got my hair cut yesterday. That's
Nice.
new, and it didn't get as bad as I thought, honestly. It turned out okay. But even before all of this, when you think about the people who matter most to your success in your life and in your business in general, so much of our communication is faceless, right? We go to the keyboard, we peck it out, whether it's a text message, an email, a Facebook message, LinkedIn message, whatever. And anytime you're clicking send is an opportunity to create a little in-person moment with and for someone else.
So it's less about, um, is it less about what you say, or is it more about how you say it, or is it a combination of both?
It really is a combination of both. I mean, obviously you need to say something that is approximately coherent, but when you think about typing out the exact same message, and I guess if I wanted to, I could perform any line that you give me two different ways, right? Or you and I could type the exact same email, but if we were to communicate the same thing over the phone or in person or in a recorded video message, we would each do it in our own different way. And I think especially where there is enthusiasm or sincerity, so much of that is lost. This is kind of the how you say it part, tone, pace, facial expression, all the nonverbal. I know as someone who's very interested in communication yourself, you're already attuned to all of this, but there's so much stripped out when we go to the keyboard, and something that I've been doing for years now and encouraging other people to do, including folks who are listening right now, is to think about going to the record button instead and just recording a little in-person moment and sending it to people instead.
I think that's where emojis developed from, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know the history of the emoji. I did lean on some research that points to the fact that emojis tend to complicate communication more than they solve the issue, right? Because I'll set one of the biggest problems to the side for a second and go with the easiest one, which is, okay, something you typed me, smiley face emoticon. Okay, are you just letting me know that you were joking, or am I going to read that as passive aggressive? Did I, as the recipient of this message who's reading it now and looking at your little smiley face, did I just drop the ball on a really important project, or did I just get some great news about something that something good that my wife or son just achieved or accomplished or were rewarded with? My own state of mind affects how I read that emoji and read that faceless text. The other issue, and what the research pointed out to, is that device to device, operating system to operating system, interface or app or browser to browser, they interpret them all differently, right? So, something that looks like a very obvious smiley face on your phone, for example, might come to mine and look a little bit goofy. And so there's a lot of really interesting research around emojis, and they certainly were meant to add a little human element to what is otherwise really dehumanized as a medium, this faceless digital communication that our brains don't assign to a human writer. We just read the words on the screen.
I used to see at the end of a line that somebody would send me a J, in an email. And I'm like, what is that J? Why is there always a J? And what is that? Until I realized it was something not translating across platforms.
Correct.
And I thought, oh, that's what that is. So obviously this person is trying to do a smiley face or something in an email, and it isn't working.
But how many times were you confused or prior to understanding it? See, as soon as you said that, I was like, that same thing happened to me. I think it was like a couple of months. And then I was like,
figured out, oh, that's what it is. So I was having a conversation. We have four kids who are the oldest is she doesn't like to hear this, but she's getting close to 30, and the youngest is 19, but or 18. But we're talking with them about the other day. I don't know why we were having this conversation about phoning people, and there's a huge resistance, and it's now considered rude to just pick up your cell phone and phone somebody without texting them first to ask them if it's okay. And so my question to you about hopping on the video is, are there rules now about this as well? Because it's still not really common to have a video response as opposed to just a text or an email. And so I wondered about that, because the idea that you can't use the phone for the purpose for which it was first developed anymore, to just pick it up and phone, is really fascinating to me.
That is fascinating. I would kind of put that in a different bucket. And I guess I'll walk into that where you took my mind on that setup. People don't answer the phone anymore unless you're one of the handful of people that I have programmed in on my favorites list. Your face comes up, your name comes up. If it's just an area code and a phone number, that I'm probably not going to take that call. And you can leave me a voicemail if you want me to figure it out. So I definitely know the phone has definitely changed. It's even across generations. Even in our customer base, at the software company I work at, I hear all the time that video, the way we think about it and practice it ourselves, is a remedy to the fact that no one answers their phone anymore. And so what I would say on the other side is, you're absolutely right. Very few people are doing this. I've been at this for about a decade, and I'm still shocked at how few people are using simple, casual, conversational recorded videos in place of, again, what would otherwise be plain typed out text. And so what you're going to tend to get isn't, you should have texted me before you sent this video. What you're going to get instead is, oh my gosh, it was so nice to see you. Or, oh wow, thank you for taking the time to send that video to me. And the irony of that last line there, and then I'll give it back to you, is that typically we speak 4 times faster than we type. And I think if you're on your mobile device, I know, at least for me, and maybe I'm just too old fashioned, it's probably 6x. I talk at least 6 times faster than I type on my phone. And so the interesting thing is, if you respond, for example, to whether it's a friend's inquiry or a customer's inquiry or a fellow team member's inquiry, when you answer the question simply by talking back to them in a video, they'll appreciate the time that you spent, but you actually saved yourself time and improved the quality of the communication in most cases.
Yeah, it is unusual. And I think in all the years that I've been doing this, when people have pitched me to be on the show, or their promoters have, or to, respond back and forth with somebody, I can count on one hand and not all the fingers how many people have done what you did when you sent me a little video to say hello.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to spend some time together. For me, in that instance, I just wanted you to feel a little bit like you knew me, and to let you know that I am excited about the opportunity, and for you to feel a little bit of that. And so I tend to use video early on in a relationship with someone. I tend to use it when there is strong emotion or tone that I want to control. And we already had that conversation a little bit around emojis, is, how are people reading your message? When you record the message, whether it's a positive, thank you, good job, congratulations, well done, that kind of thing, and you just want to amplify or really transfer that positive emotion, or whether it's, I'm sorry, I've got some bad news, or something, or I heard the bad news and I wanted to let you know I'm thinking about you, especially where there's emotion and tone. Those are great spots as well that I tend to use video. And of course, it's what I teach. So I tend to model the behavior a little bit more than the average, professional worker might. And then the last one, I guess, is kind of around detail and complexity. Whenever there's some detail or nuance or complexity to a step that someone needs to take, whether that's filling out an online document or understanding where to go in a piece of software or a tool or an app to get something done, or the particular details of a report, this opportunity to maybe record your face along with your screen to walk someone into the answer, to break down the detail or complexity, to kind of show and tell, is another great thing to look for. As you're thinking now as a listener about all the times you clicked send today, or post, or share, or whatever, those are some of the things to look for, where who you are adds a lot of value and a lot of clarity to the message that you're sending.
So in a workplace context, where this might be highly unusual, how would you begin to introduce this into your work practices, as somebody working in a company? Like, would you just, rather than doing email, would you just try it, or are there certain situations in which you would not use video?
Great question. So it really depends. So here's the interesting thing: we have about 55,000 customers. They're in all kinds of roles in all kinds of industries. Of course, for-profit, nonprofit, like legit Fortune 100 companies, and very, very small 1 or 2 person organizations, or solopreneurs, or whatever, like all kinds of people, because this is just about communicating. And so much of our success, I don't care what role you're in, so much of our success is based in human connection and relationship. And I think that's increasingly becoming interesting to think about. I'm approaching your question from a high level way, so if I go too far, walk me back. But
That's fine.
As we become more equipped with more technology, especially when artificial intelligence properly replaces what is essentially dumb automation in so much of the work that we do in the software that we use and things like that, the emails that we get as customers are a lot of them are automated. They're not actually intelligent. As this technology continues to become more and more powerful and more present in our day-to-day as professionals and as individuals outside our organizations, this line of what is the human's best role? What is the human's best place? Is this technology being deployed to the benefit of humans, or to empower humans, and these kinds of things? We need to be a lot more clear about what our real value is, what brings us joy, what do people seem to enjoy about interacting with us, where can I let a machine or an automation do my job, and where do I really want to intervene? When we think about things that scale, when we want to scale our business and do what we're doing now, but 10x it, we still need to find those spots to do the unscalable. We still need to find those spots to reach out and answer someone's question, or to let them know we're thinking about them, or to pat them on the back, or to give them a little nudge in the case that, they haven't done what they were supposed to do. And so I offer all that to say that almost anyone in almost any role can benefit from this opportunity. And the place that I recommend people start is something that I already shared before, which is just with a simple, casual, conversational video a couple of times a day to start building comfort on camera, because that's something else we could talk about if we want to. Very uncomfortable. We don't like how we look. We don't like how we sound and all these things. Did I say it right? Did I do it right? So you'll get comfortable on camera. You'll get comfortable with whatever interface you're using. Whatever laptop or desktop computer you have or phone you have already has some built-in tools to allow you to record videos. Sending them gets a little more complicated. Of course, it's what our company does, but there are other companies that do it. So it'll help you get comfortable with your equipment, whether it's just a little red record button on your phone, or it's the built-in webcam, or it's a plugged-in webcam, or whatever the case may be. You'll get comfortable with that and with the recording interface. And in order to do it in a low threat environment that kind of takes off the table some of the anxiety about what you look like and sound like, is just saying thank you, or good job, or how are you doing to people you already know. In the case that you're inside an organization, a great place to start that should not be threatening. Let's just say you're a frontline employee or a mid-level employee, and you maybe have a supervisor 1 or 2 levels up that isn't as, cool or flexible or open as you might like, that you think might not take to this well. If you want to explore it on your own, I encourage you just to reach out to team members and say, hey, thank you, good job, or how's this thing going, or I wanted to give you an update on this, and just try some of these really casual messages. And I promise you that if you do this for a week, 2 a day, anywhere during the day, you're going to get a handful of replies and responses throughout the week that let you know that this is in fact a different and better way to work. last note here. People that are doing this, especially in customer facing or employee facing, but especially on this kind of positive side, when you're communicating positive messages like, it was so helpful for me when last week you did X, Y, and Z. I know I sent you that note, or I know I replied, but I just want to take a minute out of my morning and say, thank you so much. It's just so helpful. You're awesome. I'm so glad we're on the team together. And, whatever, and you just walk out of it. And this practice of openly expressing your gratitude or appreciation or caring, it doesn't have to be positive. It could just be like, hey, I'm sorry. I heard about your aunt. I know you were very close to her. I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. Being able to breathe these, I know I'm getting a little woo here, but when you breathe these things into life, when you express these feelings and thoughts with your whole self and not just pecking them out intellectually into the keyboard, there's something that's super meaningful, obviously, to the recipient. That's how I got here. Tangent is that you're going to get replies that let you know that people are receiving you and your message differently. But the most interesting thing is that you are going to be more satisfied in that communication as well. There's something about bringing it to life that hasn't been made tangible. There's almost no research at all on video email in particular, and there's not a lot of research about video communication in general. But I know from my own experience and from having personal relationships with hundreds of our customers that this isn't just more effective, it's also more deeply satisfying.
From the producers and as well as the receivers?
Correct. Yeah, this idea of being who you are, not putting on airs, expressing these things that you actually care about, being more sincere and more whole, I guess, in your communication more often, is a human thing that I think we're missing in general.
And so when you're composing, when you're doing this, and then you go to send it, do you also write a bit of an email, or what do you do as a preamble?
Really great question. I always advise that no matter whether you're putting a video in an email message, in a text message, in a LinkedIn message, in a Twitter direct message, wherever you're communicating, I always recommend 2 lines of text to go with the video. The first one is kind of the opener, besides maybe a hello, Jenn, or hey, Jenn, or hey, thanks, Jenn. 1 line of text to give someone a reason to play the video, because just because you record it doesn't mean everyone's going to play it. So you want to give them a reason. What's in it for them? What are they going to learn? Is it an answer to their question? Is it going to advise them on the next step? Is it going to be congratulatory? Like, what's the motivation there for them? So when you're thinking about the other person before you, and this is for any communication, anytime you're communicating anything, no matter the format, you need to think about what's in it for the other person. If you think about what's in it for the other person, what's their motivation, what's the value to them, it's going to be much better composed and much better received upon send or delivery of that piece of communication, whether it's on a stage, on a webinar, in a podcast, in an email, in a video, whatever. So the opening line is, what's in it for them? Why should they click play? And then the line below the video is, in support of whatever the next step is, whatever your call to action is. Do you want them to reply? Do you want them to give you a call back? Do you want them to click and schedule? Like, whatever the call to action is, the purpose kind of for the message. In some cases, there is no call to action. The video experience is the end in and of itself. Other times the video is a means to an end in order to communicate more clearly, be a little bit more persuasive, build a little bit of trust with the person in the case that isn't already established. And so sometimes that second line is not necessary. I tend to include it anyway, just because it kind of bookends it a little bit, but it might just be, a more positive reinforcement of whatever was in the video. But opening line, why should they watch the video? Closing line, what's the next step?
So I'm thinking, because I've been thinking a lot lately with having to put together the church services that we were talking about before we hit record. and all of the extra work that goes into it, and how many takes I do of one little segment until I like it, which I would never do in person when you were leading a church service. You just do it. So my question is, do you plan? Do you practice? Do you redo things before you hit send? Or are you so comfortable with using this that you just do it as if you were having a phone conversation?
So a few key things there. First, I've sent more than 10,000, like the video I sent you, I've done that more than 10,000 times. So for me, I've already done all the practice. And I'm not always perfect, but at this point, and then I'll back out to someone who's listening that's like, this is interesting, maybe I'll try it and get right back there, because I'm so far removed from it, but I work with people all the time around that. For me, there's only one time I will re-record a video in this style. And it is when I record a video, let's say to answer a question, and it takes me 2 minutes and 20 seconds to do it, but I know that I could actually do it in 1 minute and 20 seconds. I might redo it out of courtesy for the recipient and out of respect for their time. That's the only time I'll re-record it. So I felt like, I was too long-winded there. I included too much information or whatever. That's the only time I'll do it. And that's less than 10% of the time, probably less than 5% of the time. Almost every single time at this point, I already know, and it's just like leaving a voicemail. So now I'm transitioning a little bit to getting started with it. It's just like leaving a voicemail. You know who you called. You know why you called. You know what you need to share. And you know what you want them to do next. When you get a beep on a voicemail, you don't panic and like look around for a script, right? You just talk to people. So it is just like that. It is just like that. A couple things though. If it is a longer or more complicated message, or I'll stop there. If it is a longer or more complicated message, I might write down 3 or 4 or 5 points that I want to hit. And what I'll do to give myself permission to look away and to not make it awkward for the recipient is I'll refer to it. Hey, right here on this piece of paper that you see, I've got 5 things I'm going to share with you. Or, hey, right here on my screen, I've got 5 things I'm going to share with you. The first one is blah, 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 blah. So if it is something that you can't commit to memory or whatever, you can give yourself a crutch, but don't act like you have it all memorized and like try to shoot glances off to look at it. It's just weird.
Yeah.
The goal is to make eye contact. And so you want to make regular eye contact with the camera. The other thing I'll share about this style of video is you're going to feel like you're doing it wrong. To your point about this recorded work that you're doing for church services is, I'm going to make that more common to people who aren't doing videos like that. You're doing that because, in part, you have an expectation of perfection for yourself, which is unfair. We don't expect it from other people. We shouldn't expect it from ourselves, but for some reason we do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people that are very close to us, we expect that as well. And it's not fair or respectful to them either. We need to let ourselves and other people off the hook for perfection. We just need to let go. But when you think about all the emails you've sent in the past, or if you're a Facebook user and you think about the photos, you shot 3 photos, but you only posted 1. What was wrong with the other 2? And is they weren't as good. So where I'm going here is you have all of this control over your digital presence, whether it's an email, whether it's a text message, whether it's a LinkedIn post, whether it's an Instagram feed, all the photos you've put up over the past year or whatever. You have such an intense level of control. And so we're trained to have this level of control. And especially in the social media where, the easy knock on it is, it's the highlight reel of this person's life, or it's the highlights reel of this person's career or whatever. It's only the best stuff. Well, it's true. But why wouldn't we want to put our best self forward? I offer that to say we have control in all of these channels, including our emails. If you think about an email that was really important to you, whether it was emotionally charged, you wanted to defuse a situation, or there's a lot riding on the outcome, and you might spend 40 minutes writing a 6-sentence email, right? Because you have that level of control. And so that's all to say, this is difficult for a lot of people because it's about, the key thing is about letting go of that control. The more comfortable you are, the more honest you are, the less perfect you are, the more connective this piece of communication is, the more vulnerability you're dealing with and working through. And dealing with and working through that vulnerability is exactly what makes you attractive to the recipient. It's what allows them to relate to you. So the irony here is that exactly what makes this style of video so difficult to get going with is exactly what makes it so effective. It's just honest. It's like, here I don't know if you release video with these podcasts.
No, I don't.
Okay. But for folks that are listening, I'm just standing in my bedroom. Now, I know that a lot of people are doing that more often now, but like, there's nothing special going on here. And I've recorded, since I've been home, I've recorded hundreds and hundreds of videos standing right here at this desk in my bedroom, because we have a small home. We don't have like a fourth bedroom that's a home office or anything. And you just don't worry about it. You just are who you are. And it's really about you, the other person, and the opportunity or the value or the connection or whatever you're trying to do there. And the less pretense, the less acting as if, the less airs you put on, and the more comfortable you are in your own skin, honestly, the more attractive you are.
So is there a time when you should not do this?
Certainly. I mean, there's no reason to send an 8-second video back when the answer is yes, I'll see you at 4 p.m. Right? There's, I would also say that there's fatigue as well. So if you're, a lot of sales folks use our software. And so, what they're doing is a mix of emails and maybe some direct mail. They might send a postcard or a note or something. They might be, leaving voicemails and a variety of touches. And so you don't want to abuse this opportunity. Again, you want to choose your spots. It's one of the reasons why I offered some things to look for in the messages that you're sending to say, oh, this is the type that might be better with a video. And so one is when it's just if it's going to take you less than 10 seconds to type out and it's going to be perfectly satisfactory for the purpose of the message, whether you're replying or composing, don't bother with a video. There's no reason to hide that behind a video play click. It's annoying to the other person. And then the other one is you don't want to rely on it too often. You do want to pick your spots. Just like anything, you want to mix it up with other modes. And so those are just a couple things off the top of my head.
I would say the same as an email. Maybe wait till you're not angry anymore.
Good call. Great call. That's really good. Like when you are really feeling it. Unless, of course, it's a deep, deep sense of gratitude, in which case that's a great time to hit record.
Right.
But out of anger or confusion, when you're in the heat of a situation, you haven't worked it all out in your head. Great call. Same thing. It's the same thing with type the email, but put it in your draft folder, or write the letter, but don't seal the envelope. Same thing. Good call.
Yeah. Just because I can imagine further issues.
Right.
Because your body language transmits so much more than just your words do.
Oh, that reminded me. One more. Mm-hmm. If you are not sincere about your message, don't send the video. We are one of the reasons this is so effective is that humans, since we've been on 2 feet, we've been communicating eye to eye, face to face. That's why we are so attuned to look at other people's faces. It's why we're so good at expressing and reading emotions off other people's faces and bodies without even being conscious of doing it. It's all happening subconsciously. And so if you are not sincere about what you're doing, no matter the role, no matter the situation, no matter the opportunity, people will sense that disconnect. We've all seen that politician or athlete or celebrity or whoever, at the podium, at the press conference, making that apology. And we all, it's the sorry, not sorry. They're all the words say, I am sorry. I'm so very deeply sorry. But everything about how they look and the way they're saying it says, this guy or this gal does not mean it. And we can sense that intuitively. Now it's a dramatic example, but when you get into some of these, like, these interrogators and like the profilers and things like that, they're just much more highly attuned to things that we're attuned to on a subconscious level. They're much more attuned to on a conscious level, these micro expressions that are little tells about the disconnect between what I'm saying and what I actually mean, or I'm concealing something or whatever. And so if you're not honest and sincere about your message, video is not for you, because even if it's subconscious, the recipient or the recipients, you can send these to 10,000 or 100,000 people at a time if you want. They will sense that disconnect. They might not say, oh my gosh, this guy's lying to me, but they're going to have that intuitive gut feeling that we all get, which is, oh man, I really like her. Or, I've got a really good feeling about this guy. That same thing that we get intuitively the first time we meet someone. We give that same opportunity for someone to recognize the disconnects in the see and say, and they're going to feel it even if they can't put words to it. So if you're honest and sincere, video is the best thing you can do in so many cases.
Excellent. Good. Well, tell us about your book, Ethan. I know you co-wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you for that. It's called Rehumanize Your Business. It was something that I started. I got really excited about my 6-year anniversary at Bom Bom as a full-time employee. I was just so excited about what we had done. I mean, this is probably a very new idea to a lot of people listening, but it's something that we've been building for years, this community of people that wants to be more personal and more human and more often. And so I was thinking at that time, we maybe had 30,000 customers, and I was just so excited. And, I feel that what I'm doing with people is meaningful. I know that it's changing people's lives and businesses. I know because it's changing their relationships. And so I just felt like this is our movement. This is a movement that we have co-created with tens of thousands of people all over the world. And, there was a lot more competition coming into our space. And some people were coming kind of what I'll say is down market. They were selling services that were all about lights, scripts, editing, production, drones, green screens, budgets, and all this other stuff that is like, it's all cool if you want to do that, but that's not what we're about. You can take a super nice video and put it in Bom Bom and send it out to people, but that's not really what we're about. We're about the things we've been talking about so far to this point in the conversation. So I was like, how can we get this message to more people? I know that we will live and work in a better world when twice as many people are doing it as are doing it today. And I know that we'll be in an even better world years after that when twice as many people are doing it. It's just better. I know it. I hear it from customers and I feel it intuitively. And so I just, I created an outline. I started writing between 5 and 6 in the morning in the better part of a Saturday or a Sunday. And my wife and son were the only ones who knew I was working on it. And they were both excited and encouraging. And so I just kept going. And then at a certain point, I shared it with Steve, who is my co-author on the book and a longtime friend and team member. And, I realized I had 2 tracks I had to figure out. One is, how do I actually write a full-length book? I've never done that before, even though I've written hundreds of blog posts. And how do I get a book to market? Because there are so many paths. And so I just tracked both of those things down. I kept going on the book, and Steve and I got a workflow together to, make sure that he was essentially reader's advocate. He would read everything I wrote and leave comments and like, this story would be great here. Check out this article. We need to go deeper here. We need a takeaway. It's been too long, And so we developed that give and take. And so we ended up bringing it to market with Wiley, which is a company. I've read many of their books. They specialize in nonfiction in general, and they publish a lot of business books. And so that was my preferred choice. We ended up getting an opportunity to be published by Wiley. It released about a year ago-ish right now. And it's been fantastic. We've gotten really good feedback. We've sold about 25,000 copies of it, which I didn't know what my expectations were, but that's a lot bigger number than I expected. And it's just been great. It just gives people a new format to share us or share the philosophy, or, a lot of our customers bought it. So it allows them to kind of revisit what motivated them to start participating. And it's got, from a content standpoint, and then I'll give it back to you, is I say my one-liner on it is it's the complete what, why, who, when, and how of this movement that we call relationships through video in order to separate it from marketing video. So it's, what are we actually talking about here? And we've talked about some of it already in this conversation. Why does this matter? How is this better? What's the detriment of continuing exactly as we are today for another year? Who's doing it? What are some examples of it? When would you actually send videos instead of text? Something we did a light pass on here too. And then the how. How do I actually do it? What are some ways to do it? It's not a Bom Bom guide. It's I cover a variety of topics in there, some equipment considerations because people need to know it, and then some best practices like how do I make sure more of my emails get open? How do I make sure more of my videos get played? And some follow-up ideas as well. What do I do if I send a video email to 497 people? What do I do with the 212 who opened the email but didn't play the video? Or what do I do if I send a video email to one person and she opens the email and she plays the video, but she didn't reply yet, even though I asked her to reply? How do I follow up on that? So we have some more advanced strategies in there as well. And so it's kind of a primer on this philosophy and practice of replacing some of your typed out text with something a little bit more human.
I love it. I love it. Something new to explore. I hadn't heard of Bom Bom, so tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. We're a software company. Almost all of us are in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're about 150 people, as I've already mentioned, our customers. We believe in you. We believe that you're better in person. We believe that you win when you work with, through, and for other people. We believe that you win through relationship. And I think that is transcendent of any, as I've already said many times, it's transcendent of industry. It's transcendent of company or organization. It's transcendent of role. We all need other people to be successful. And by the way, when we operate that way, it's more fun to do. And so we've created just a really wide tool set that makes it easy to record these messages and to send them out. So we do a bunch of things automatically for you in the background that you don't have to think about. So you don't have to record a video however you're going to record it, and then upload it to YouTube, and then mark it to private because it's not for your channel. It's just for these 4 people. And then you're going to screenshot it so they know it's a video and not just a link and all these other things. We take all that off the table and just have seamless workflows for you in our web app that you can log into at bombom.com. We have mobile apps for iPhone and Android. We have a deep integration inside Gmail, and we have integrations with a number of other systems and platforms so it can operate directly inside where you're working. We have a little Chrome extension. If you use Google Chrome as your internet browser, it just sits up there and you can record a video anytime and grab it and put it anywhere that you want. Also has screen recording there. And we're telling you who's opening your emails, playing your videos, etc. And so again, as software is something you subscribe to as an individual or as an organization. You can do team accounts and have 37 accounts all rolled up into one with some cool dashboards and things for the administrator of those accounts. And you can subscribe monthly or annually. Got a couple different levels to choose from based on what you want. And you can try it absolutely free with no credit card, pretty much on every page of the website.
Cool. And so if people want to find you and find out more about what you're doing, where do they go?
Sure. I welcome direct communication. My name is Ethan Beute, and you can email me at Ethan. It's just ETHAN at bombom.com. That's BOMB.com. I do not shy away from it. I love it. I love connecting with people directly. It's why I've sent, that's too much of a sideline, but you can also connect with me on LinkedIn as Ethan Beute, ETHAN BEUTE. And I'm on pretty much every social network by my first and last name. So I welcome any connection, and where it allows a connection request like LinkedIn, a connection request is a note to go with it is always a benefit.
Great. So people can reach out to you there, and you've given us so much to think about, but I'm going to ask you for one last piece of advice before we finish our conversation.
Sure. I'll kind of echo a challenge that's been present throughout, which is I challenge you or recommend to you to think as you click send the next time and the next time and the next time, the next 3 to 5 times you click send, think, would this be more effective if I just said it in a video? Would I be more clear? Would I increase connection, or would I increase the likelihood that someone's going to comply with my request or honor my call to action? Would I be more effective if I communicated this message eye to eye, face to face?
So it's being there in person when you're not actually there in person.
Correct. When time and distance keep you apart from people. And in this case, by law, in some cases, we're forced to be distant.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you, Ethan. It's been a great conversation and lots to think about today.
Cool. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I enjoyed it.
You've been listening to Careers by Jenn with Jenn Swanson. If you like what you heard, please share this. If every single person listening today shared this episode with just one friend, our audience would be twice as big just like that. And the more people we can help with our content, the better. So help out a friend and help grow our audience by sharing this show with someone you know who would benefit from the content. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, take good care.